Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
I know you're tired. I know you're hurting. And I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational.
You can do it!
But that just wouldn't be our style.
Welcome to Project Reclamation, where you rebuild, re-energize, and reclaim your life.
All right.
What's up? What's happening? My triumphant return to the digital ring here.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back, JB.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a crazy couple weeks. Not a lot of sleep. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you kind of made that decision when you knocked your wife up for the second time, didn't you?
Well, for sure. But
Yeah.
I'm still saying that doesn't make it any easier.
No. But I mean, like, no, it doesn't at all.
No. I saw it coming for sure.
Dude, I got to be honest. So, like, I'm a dude with no children, right?
Yeah.
You're a guy with kids.
I'm gonna give 2 kids now. That sounds so weird.
Dude. Family, Beckstead, family of 4.
Exactly.
But like, I get it. Like, kids are a lot of work, you know? And like, I think I thought I knew that. But then, you know, I was spending some time with Casey and his wife, and their baby's 8 months old?
Yeah.
And it's just like, just being there like firsthand and like seeing everything that goes into like having a baby. It's like, wow, fuck.
Wow, like you're intimidated. Wow, you're excited and you want to do it. Wow, like just a simple wow.
Is this a question?
Yes.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, a little bit of column C.
Well, then you'd be a good parent because that's
all of the above. But I'm just saying, it's a lot of.
You have to approach every situation with like some terror, some oh, look at them, they're so cute, and some just like, okay. You have to be like 3 different mental stages at all times because the landscape changes that quickly, and you need to pull from 3 different mindsets in an instant, or else you just go crazy.
Yeah, and then you just put the art of war into play.
Exactly.
The art of war for parenting.
The problem is with the art of war, Sun Tzu's whole thing is that you want to know that you can win a battle before you go into it. There's no possible way of being able to win the parenting battle. It's like
an edited version where I don't know, you know what? Thinking back, I don't know if this is in there, but it might be. It's almost like using those principles if you're forced into a war that you're probably going to lose. But it's like, how do you fight that war and come out like with the least amount of casualties possible? Exactly.
It would be like if Sun Tzu got attacked from behind, unbeknownst to him, kind of thing.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Parenting's like.
You
do. You have to, go all like Shaolin monk and because you do these little humans they're like so cute and they're so helpless and they're so innocent and
demanding.
Just the fruit of your loins, which sounds weird, but
it just reminds me of those fruit of the loom, dude.
Yeah, fruit of my looms.
Fruit of my looms. Just a bunch of people with weird
it's like Puss in Boots in Shrek. Like,
explain yourself.
Go from like the little pouty eyes and like the hands under the chin, like woo, to like embedding their claws in the side of your head in like the next instant,
and screaming bloody murder.
Yeah, the screaming thing, I still don't do well with. I don't know why. It totally enacts my fight or flight response, and I'm just like puts me on a whole different plane. Especially when we're like out with people. I'm just I'm the guy that's really concerned about what other people are thinking, unfortunately.
Yeah, you gotta ditch that, dude. Nobody cares.
I know, and I'm getting better at it as I
No, but I get that, dude.
Parent,
and as an irritable onlooker, I can say that like when kids are screaming, like, and I think in my life at this point in time, I'm a hell of a lot more understanding than I used to be. But like when a kid is screaming, or a slightly older kid is, running around the grocery store, like just pulling stuff off the shelves and like throwing shit on the floor, like whatever. When kids are doing something that can be annoying, like the first thing I do is look at the parents, and if nothing else, if the parent is at least like mortified and like feels embarrassed, like, okay, I kind of feel for them. And then there was the parents that are like trying to fix it and like just having no luck, no success. Yeah, and those I respect that too.
Like is like shaking his head, being like, "I'm sorry."
Well, that I respect that too. I get that. That's like when someone cuts you off or takes you right of way, and then they kind of like, "Oh, I'm sorry," like I apologize. Like that's fine. It's cool. Like no worries. Like we all make mistakes. It's the parents that just don't give a fuck and aren't even paying attention while their kids are just like running amok or screaming or whatever. Those are the ones that piss me off.
No, I completely agree in that situation because I try not to be that parent. I mean, I'm a little bit too overbearing, to be perfectly honest with you on my kids.
Sure, you're not.
Well, just in like I try. It's a whole wormhole of experiences. But
if kids are anything like dogs, then like overbearing is necessary.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and I think that's
for that reason. Like I've read these articles. There's this the newsletter website app called Fatherly, and they do a lot of.
All right.
It's actually really good stuff. I mean, even if you don't have kids, it's all pertaining to kids, but common sense stuff. But they have a lot of helpful hints and stuff like that to kind of help dads and families with the struggle of parenting. But there was one article I read. There was like once a week you should take your son or daughter out to like a store and just let them run amok.
Okay.
Go to Target and let them pull stuff off shelves, and not like let them be a hellion, but just let them be a kid.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time with that one. And I've been trying to do that too, like because usually my son's two and some change, and he wants to run around in a store, but I still put him in the shopping cart and stuff like that, and have him face backwards. He actually kicked me in the nuts the other day. That's a whole nother story I'll tell you about. But so they said let your kid down, let him run around. Don't lose him, but let him pull some stuff off the shelf. Apparently, it's good and therapeutic for them. And I was just having a hard time coming to terms with being able to do that because I'm like, then I'm the guy that has to go and put the stuff back on the shelves, and that just doesn't seem like fun to me. But I mean, if there's some sort of magical mindset for my kid that it's benefiting him by pulling shampoo off the shelf at Kroger or Target, I'm all about it.
And fun for you, like went out the window a long time ago.
Oh no, I don't think that's true. I think, obviously it's not all about me, but I don't think it shouldn't be fun. I mean, that's really the only way. That's the only way you get through it is by having fun.
For sure. But I guess what I'm saying is I think there's definitely some instances where you have to his fun
trumps mine.
His fun trumps yours, and
for sure.
And
absolutely.
Maybe not necessarily pulling shampoo off the shelves, but I mean, I think there's going to be plenty of things that maybe on paper wouldn't be fun for JB, but watching your kid have fun probably makes it fun.
Well, that's a whole different monster too. That's like,
and even pulling. I mean, I guess it just depends on your mindset. Like if you're kind of caught in the like, oh God, he's being such an asshole. Like, what are all these people thinking? Like, I get it. That can't be fun. But like, if you just kind of embrace it, and you're like, okay, fine. Like, he's gonna pull stuff off the shelves, and I'm gonna pick it up.
Well,
but,
and
like,
you can, and honestly, if you get into that mindset, you can kind of throw your kid under the bus a little bit, where it's like, if he's cute and he's having a good time, the people around you are like, oh, look at him, and you're
right?
like, I'm sorry, guys, he's too, and secretly in the back of your mind, you're like, this is awesome.
Well, and your kid is cute enough to get away with Dennis the Menace type shit.
For sure.
No.
He's getting to the point though. He does these like, I call him the Hulks. He just gets like all raged, like because he's very communicative at this point. He's just like I said, he's just past 2. He's got a huge vocabulary, and he's very articulate for a 2-year-old. But there's still things obviously that he can't communicate. There's still like those filler words that he just doesn't get yet. So he gets so frustrated, and then he'll just sit there on the floor, and he'll look at me, and he'll do the Hulk arms, like like you're doing a flexing thing. He'll just go, ah!
That's awesome.
It's kind of scary, honestly, because if he keeps doing that, like when he's 18, I'm gonna be in trouble.
Your kid's got rage issues.
Well, apparently he's a 2-year-old, and all 2-year-olds have rage issues. So
there is a reason they call it terrible twos.
Yeah, I know. I find that so cliched too, but at the same time, there's something to it.
Well, I mean, here's a funny thing. Like, you were the one who taught me. You were the one who gave me like reasoning of why kids can be so terrible at that age, and it's that whole frustration thing. It's that
and that's really how you have to look at it. I mean, obviously, these are little human beings that are their brains are forming like a sponge every day. They're soaking everything in. They can't they cannot think critically at all at this point.
Well, and even beyond that, I mean, just as simply as like, let's say, like, okay, so I was in Puerto Vallarta a couple of years ago, and like I mean, we obviously, you and I both took a bunch of Spanish in high school. I remember none of it. I mean, by the end of the week, I think I was speaking Spanish pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But it's like, but when you're at that point, where you can understand, and even if it's like skip logic, like you're picking out a couple of words, like I can understand what they're saying.
Yeah, it's like speed
but
reading.
I can't. Right, but then, but it's I can understand things that I cannot articulate an answer to. So that's frustrating. So I get that.
Yeah, and that's an amazing example of how my best understanding of what a 2-year-old's mind is that they're learning so quickly. They're learning faster that they can understand more, but they can't communicate. So it's like this weird skewed, matrix there, and it's like, I kind of equate it to like the other end of the spectrum, where like someone has some sort of what is it like? What's the
Alzheimer's?
Disease? Yeah, Alzheimer's.
I was actually just going to go that direction.
What's that?
I was actually just going to go that direction because
well, I mean, it's obviously not quite like that, but
no, I mean, it kind of is though. It's kind of like the opposite. Yeah. Not the it's the same thing, but it's everything is going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Because when people get dementia or Alzheimer's, they get to that point where like they're aware enough to know that they can't
don't remember.
Articulate. Well, that they don't remember, or like they're aware enough to know that like, fuck, I know who this person is, but I can't remember.
You just
who
can't
they
pull
are.
it out of thin air.
And at that point, like, there's a lot of frustration and anger that comes with that stage. And I'm not an expert by any means, but
no.
But yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
so yeah, it's been an interesting couple weeks, and it's been awesome seeing my son meet my daughter, and he's been very very understanding and super super sweet. Like he'll just walk up and he'll put his little hands kind of under his chin and be, oh baby sister, and he'll like kiss her on the head, and then he'll go and dump an entire 10-gallon thing of Legos out on the floor and scream bloody murder, but at least he's nice and gentle around her. So that's all I can ask for as a parent.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now she's got 2 bodyguards.
Exactly.
And then, someone messes with her, just, I'll hop on a plane. Uncle Tim will be out there.
Yeah, the Beckstead women have their the protections.
Oh, for sure, dude. For sure. So yeah.
What's been going on with you, man?
Not much. Well, I mean, a lot. I don't know. I mean, work's been keeping me pretty busy. By the way, obviously Steve's not here.
Yeah,
should
Steve
probably
is still
give
on his sojourn.
Steve is still on his sabbatical. We should probably give Steve a shout out because obviously you're going to listen to this whenever you listen to this. But as we record, Steve had a birthday just a day ago.
And
so Stephen Chang,
Steve and I both,
birthday.
Happy birthday, buddy. We both decided that since the two of us were unable to recognize and, let you know that we wished you a happy birthday yesterday, we decided that your birthday is today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that is our cop-out.
Yeah.
Which is just today.
It's not a cop-out. We're just
Today
taking
is
the bull by the
officially
horns and
Steve's
making our own
birthday.
truths.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So yeah, dude, no, everything's good, man. Work's going good. The company's going in the right direction. I got my team in place and everything.
The A-team.
The A-team. Yeah, dude, it's cool. And I had a meeting with my boss yesterday. Dude, he's so cool. I love that dude.
That's awesome.
Just been doing the keto thing. I was telling you earlier. I made a recipe. They called it like crustless keto crock pot pizza, something like that. I don't.
That sounds like kind of impossible, but strangely delicious.
Okay, no, delicious, absolutely. I don't know that I would call it pizza. Let's be honest. So what it basically was you got your crock pot, you brown a bunch of ground beef, and then you throw that in the crock pot. You mix that with some mozzarella cheese. So that's kind of your crust. And then you throw on a layer of like marinara sauce and then another layer of cheese, and then you throw on your toppings. So it's not, I don't know, it's like a hamburger patty pizza.
It's casserole.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's a fucking casserole.
I would think if it were pizza, actually claiming to be somewhat anything pizza, there would be some sort of like riced cauliflower crust or some sort of like almond / coconut flour.
Well, and
crust.
they definitely make cauliflower pizza crust.
Yeah.
That you can buy also. But then Jeremy was telling me the other day that there's a place called, it's definitely a chain, Pieology. I don't know if it's like a nationwide chain.
I think I've heard of that. Yeah, like a pizza
place.
I
guess they have like a pretty bomb ass cauliflower crust pizza.
Huh.
Yeah, he was saying that like if, in crunch time, if because he's got
pardon the pun.
He's got 2 kids. They're like 10 and 7 or 10 and 6 or something like that. So lots of like football practice and stuff. So when they have to go pick something up, like that's kind of his go-to, I think. So.
Nice. Yeah. I've kind of in the last few days been adopting since we've been talking. I'm not going like keto, but I'm definitely like dropping a lot of the carbs and sugar, which is sort of the basis of keto. It's not going away completely, but I'm being realistic here.
Dude, and that's honestly, that's how I approach it too. Like,
yeah. And maybe, I'm sure it'll help out for a while. And then to actually get the major benefits of those said diets, you have to cut it all completely out. But I'm not looking to chisel away. Like, I'm not looking to go to like 2% body fat at this point.
Well, sure. But basically your body, essentially, the first thing your body burns is glucose. And then the next thing your body burns is glycogen, which is essentially these like complex chains of glucose that gets stored in your liver. And then after that, your body burns fat. So the idea behind keto is that you basically have no glucose or, negligible glucose. And at some point, once you've burned all your glycogen stores, and if you're not eating a ton of carbs or sugar, then you're not going to make a whole lot more glycogen. So essentially that forces your body to basically just reach for fat first. Yeah, and that's the whole point. So if you have none and your body gets to fat like in the first 5 minutes of the day, versus if you have a little bit and like you get there eventually.
Yeah,
it's not I guess what I'm saying is
for the Tour de France.
Exactly, dude. And I'm not trying to do like a bodybuilding competition. And I'm sure you purists out there are probably cursing us right now for saying this, but you know what?
Suck it, we're trying.
It is what it is. And at the end of the day, an 80% healthy lifestyle is better than being at 95 and
20% healthy lifestyle.
Well, that right. But I guess what I'm saying is, if you treat it black or white, which I've definitely done on diets, like, oh, I was bad today, so I'm going to be horrible tonight, and then start tomorrow. But then I don't start tomorrow. But I guess what I'm saying is,
yes, like I laugh because I've done the same thing.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is, it's better to be like it's better to be 80% good than not be happy with 100 and be 0%.
Yeah.
Good.
Well,
I don't.
Nobody's
fucking know.
100% good. It doesn't happen that way.
Well, there's people who aren't 100% good, and then there's people who lie.
I do know something was happening with my body because yesterday I felt like somebody took like a 2-day-old dog turd and smashed it all over the wall and like lit it on fire. I felt terrible. And it was like the second or third day of me not eating carbs, and it was just like, dude, I felt like I got hit by a truck. I feel great today.
It's well, I don't know if that's the keto flu, but
I think it
there's
was. I think it
something
was
to
some sort of withdrawals, because my energy level was down, and I had like a headache, and when I've done juice cleanses before in the past, it was that same kind of headachy like all day.
Well, and if you drink a lot of coffee or caffeine and you try to get off caffeine, there's definitely withdrawals. You have headaches and stuff because I'm
definitely not doing that.
I was reading something. This is a long time ago, and it was basically the physiological effects of sugar and simple carbs on the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
And it's scarily similar to heroin.
Yeah, so I may have had
like,
a little food heroin.
I think heroin, alcohol, and sugar are like some of like the drugs that you have the most like physical dependency on.
Well, yeah, they're the most like inflammatory to your physiology, really.
Right. So when you quit, you definitely go through withdrawals. So I mean, it makes perfect sense, dude. Why you would feel shitty when you give up carbs. For me, when I give up carbs, I just get angry. I'm like super irritable, but not this time, because this time I'm like, I stock my life with plenty of options.
Plenty of
I've never used to
nuts and
I never used to like pork rinds. Not that I didn't like them. They were like, whatever.
Dude, the spicy ones are better.
The spicy ones are better. Yes, the spicy ones are definitely better. And so pork rinds.
In Aldi, you can get like the medium-sized bag for like 98 cents. It's amazing.
Aldi
definitely not a sponsor of the show, but
no, definitely not. But Aldi was a big company, and then they split. I think it's like Danish or Swedish or one of those like Nordic.
Then
they split it into
European.
They split it into Aldi Sur and Aldi North. So Aldi North and Aldi South, and one of them maintained the name Aldi, and the other one took on the name Trader Joe's.
Yeah, I know that they were the same company, or one of them owned the other, or yeah.
Speaking of which, we have this Food for Less by my house. Like Food for Less, like I've never really been interested in shopping there.
Yeah,
I went there a while back, and I saw all this Kroger shit.
Huh.
So I looked it up, and then sure enough,
it's a Kroger branded company.
It's owned by Kroger. So if you're going to go to, like, I go to Ralph's and buy the Kroger stuff at Ralph's all the time. I can literally go a quarter mile away to Food for Less and buy the exact same Kroger shit for like half the price. It's ridiculous.
Do yourself a favor and look up, because there's these huge conglomerate grocery companies. Kroger is one of the largest. I think if it's not the largest, it
wouldn't surprise me. It's like Kroger and Safeway and
yeah, there's a ton like Piggly Wiggly, all this stuff. But yeah,
and
go look that up, because you're especially, well, I noticed this with, what's the one over across from the Ralph's? I think Ralph's is a Kroger company.
Ralph's is definitely Kroger. That's where I shop. That's why I was like, when I saw all the Kroger stuff at Food for Less,
yeah,
I was like, why? Like the only difference is at Food for Less, you have to bag your own groceries. Like, who cares?
Well, and that's the same thing at Aldi.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's exactly the same thing. I mean, you can buy bags, but they just put it in the cart and you bag it up. And I'm like, that's actually kind of fun, especially if you got your kids with you, or you just,
yeah,
it's a little bit of, you're saving money. Like, because I will go fill the cart at Aldi, whatever you want to call it. And,
dude,
like $160. And I'm like, the food is like falling out of the cart.
Heck yeah, dude.
$160 at like, say, Kroger, because we actually have Kroger's here in Tennessee. Like, and I can have like 2 or 3 bags worth of stuff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. The one thing that I started doing when I was unemployed, and I obviously didn't have a lot of money, I would go to the 99-cent store and buy everything from my list that I was willing to buy at the 99-cent store. So like, i.e., there's certain things that are the exact same brand, and then there's certain things that like Like I'm not going to buy produce and meat there, but there's a ton of stuff I'm willing to buy there. So you knock off like a third of your list there, and then you go to like Food for Less and knock off like the rest, and then anything that you have to go to like the last store, then boom. Or like Trader Joe's fits in there somewhere. Trader Joe's is actually pretty affordable, but
yeah, Trader Joe's is very affordable, but like the selections aren't the greatest, you know. I mean,
well, and everything is like it's all self-branded, so like you're not going in there and buying like Folgers coffee.
Yeah, but you're buying something that's actually probably a superior product than Folgers coffee. To be honest with you,
probably, or it could be something that Folgers actually packages and then they just put the Trader Joe's label on it.
True.
That happens all the time. Like when you're at the grocery store and you see the Folgers coffee, and then you look and you see the Kroger or Ralph's or Safeway or whatever brand next to it that has similar packaging, that's most likely the exact same product. They just
for sure, and that's
yeah.
I all the time buy store brands. It's ridiculous if you don't. I mean, I guess there's a couple things maybe, but
well, and it's genius because they know that there's people like you and I who are we're totally willing to do that, but there's other people who aren't. So if Folgers they make the generic and the non-generic, then they're getting all the business.
Well, exactly. And we're immune to the marketing aspects of everything, you know, like people go in like, oh, I only need Folgers because I love that jingle.
Right.
You know, and we're like, you know, I want to save a few bucks.
Exactly. It's like, it's like the alcohol at Costco, like the Kirkland brand alcohol. It all comes from distilleries that make other alcohol.
Yeah.
It's not, people say like, oh, this is Grey Goose. Like not necessarily, but it's bottled at the same place with similar ingredients. So yeah, it's pretty darn
well,
close.
And Kirkland is able to sell it at a much discounted price because they're not wasting a ton of money on marketing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and then the companies are happy to bottle it for them because then they get, you know,
their products going out the door. They're getting paid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, dude. No, things are good, man. Kirkland alcohol and all these Slim Jims.
We've got life on track here. We've got.
Did you make your bed this morning? Do you make your bed every morning?
You know what? I didn't, but I know that I should.
Yeah, probably.
You know why? Because I think if I did that, I could probably change the world.
I think you could. I mean, literally, I was watching Pinky and the Brain the other day, and he was like, hey, Brain, what are we going to do today? Same thing we're going to do every day. Make our bed and then change the world. I don't know. That was a stupid story, but regardless, today we are talking about a speech by Admiral William Harry McRaven. And I don't know if the speech has an official title, but the unofficial title of the speech is "If you want to change the world, make your bed."
McRaven sounds like a post-apocalyptic McDonald's sandwich.
It's just made with raven meat.
Yeah, it's like, hey, welcome to the Golden Arches, and the Golden Arches are all cut in half, and it's like we offer the McRaven.
Like,
moving on.
So a little bit about I always want to say General. General and Admiral.
He's in the Navy.
No, I understand that. And Admiral is, it's equal to General, essentially. It's the highest rank in the Navy, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So he's a retired U.S. Navy Admiral. He last served as a Ninth Commander of the United States Special Operations Command from 2011 to 2014. And from 15 to 18, he was the Chancellor of the University of Texas System. Previously served in 2008 to 2011 as commander of JSOC, which is Joint Special Operations Command. And from 2006 to 2008, he was the commander of Special Operations Command Europe. In addition to this, he was designated as the first director of the NATO Special Operations Forces Coordination Center. And this is clearly European because center is spelled C-E-N-T-R-E.
There's an E on the end?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he was charged with enhancing the capabilities and interoperability of all NATO Special Operations Forces. Admiral McRaven retired from the U.S. Navy on August 28th, 2014, after more than 37 years of service. Great guy. So basically, he gave a commencement speech at the University of Texas. I have no idea when it was. It's about 19 minutes long. I highly recommend listening to it. It's pretty legit. But essentially, we're going to break that down right now.
Well, and before we get into that,
sure.
Let's just highlight the fact that William Harry McRaven was a part of SEAL Team 6, which is
interesting. I did not know that.
Probably, without a doubt, the most, famous of the
The
SEAL
most
teams.
famous of the SEAL teams. Absolutely.
Yeah, most well known. I mean, Navy SEALs are pretty well known, but SEAL Team 6 is they get all the apparently they get all the
accolades,
operations that those of us who do not have clearance can know about.
Absolutely. Well, SEAL Team 6, they killed Bin Laden. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of my point.
Right? So yes, he was a Navy SEAL. And in his commencement address, he broke it down as 10 life lessons that he learned in basic SEAL training. So we're going to go through those one at a time. And it's a cool speech. He goes through and basically everyone has every lesson has a story behind it. And then he kind of extrapolates that out into real life advice. So we'll just start off with the first one. And the first one is our title track. If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you can't do the little things right, you will never do the big things right. So, JB, what does that mean to you?
This, to me, is an absolutely... I think if you were to take one thing from this entire speech, this would be the one to do it, because it makes sense. You get up. The one thing if you're going to do one thing right that day is make your bed. At least you're doing one thing. But
absolutely.
If you want to continue that, you've got to set the small goals. We've talked about this,
tirelessly.
Tirelessly.
Yeah. Yes.
Throughout the podcast here. Small goals. If you're changing the world, the journey of the 1,000 miles starts with one step. That's your first step.
Absolutely. Well, and it's just the way that our brains are wired. It's, like we said, if you have a list, if you're just staring at the list, pick the easiest thing and knock it off, and then, knock it off your list, finish it. And your brain is wired in a way where when you finish one thing, it just kind of motivates you to do more. And you have this like sense of accomplishment, and making your bed sounds stupid, but it's really not, because whether you realize it or not, whether it's conscious or not, you do have this little sense of accomplishment, and that is going to change the way that you do things the rest of the day. Well, and
it's also giving you the forward thinking enough to think, if you're not thinking about changing the world, you're thinking about, at the end of the day, I'm going to come home and get into a clean bed.
Well, and that's exactly what he says. He goes, it'll help you, knocking one thing off your list will help you do more. And worst case scenario, even if it doesn't, then at least when you come back, you have a nice made bed to
exactly.
To move to. So yeah. Cool. So the second one, if you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need someone to help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, and goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain. I don't even know what that is. And a strong coxswain to guide them.
I'm gonna Google this because I thought about this earlier. I was gonna be like, I know what this is.
I think this is another.
It's a naval term, I can imagine.
Okay, that makes
yeah. It's the steerman of a ship's boat.
Oh, there we go.
So yeah, it's basically the dude manning the.
So obviously
rudder.
he's talking about paddle. So they have to do countless drills in these. I think they're like inflatable boats. Isn't it kind of like what is it called? Like a Zephyr? Not a Zephyr.
No.
Zamboni?
No.
It is a Z though.
Damn it! Yes. Hold on. Dang it! God, why do you do this to me? Zodiac.
There we go. Yeah. So they're talking about these Zodiacs, anyways. But I think this one rings just as true to me that and we've talked about this one tirelessly too. I think we're probably going to find that with pretty much all of these.
Well, of course.
You can't do it alone. You need help. And it's okay to need help, because we all need help. And that help could be, your friends, or it could be a therapist, or it could be your colleagues, or it could be your parents or your support structure, whatever it may be. We all do need help. And I don't really know how else to put it. It is what it is.
No, I mean, you think about it, if you go in with a grand, theme, the president needs a cabinet. The
Absolutely.
President's not making all these decisions for himself. And honestly, the president didn't get there by himself.
No, not at all.
I know people like to think that they can handle things by themselves, but you need a support structure no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, and I mean, there's something to be said for surrounding yourself with people who are good at the things you're not good at.
For sure. That's a smart businessman. You know, that just makes sense.
Absolutely. So number 3, if you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not the size of their flippers. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed. Not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, and not your social status. And his example for this one was they break them into boat crews. So they have all these different boat crews, and when he was in training, they put all of the I guess he was in the tall group, so they put all the tall people in one group, and they put all the shortest people in one group. So they called them what do they call them so they had this group of the all the shortest guys, and they were the best team. And, you know, he's like, oh yeah, at the beginning, like they all made fun of them, and they, you know, because of their tiny little flippers and their tiny little hands, and their tiny little everything. But then they kicked everyone else's ass. You kind of, yeah. Maybe it was Smurfs, Smurf crew.
Smurf crew. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Smurf crew. Yeah. So they called them the Smurf crew, and they made fun of their tiny little flippers, and their tiny little this, and their tiny little that. But at the end of the day, you know, when it came down to all of their drills, the Smurf crew kicked everyone else's ass, and that's
why is that, you think?
Why did the Smurf crew kick everyone else's ass? Mm-hmm. Because they worked better as a team.
Because because the tall people didn't feel as much camaraderie.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I have no idea the reason, but the whole point is, you know.
Well, tall people are usually pretentious too. I'm just
wow. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, number 4, if you want to change the world, get over being a sugar cookie and keep moving forward. So, in SEAL training,
I really dug this one. This was good.
I really did too. So he says, sometimes no matter how well you prepare or how well you perform, you still end up as a sugar cookie. For failing the uniform inspection, the student in basic SEAL training had to run fully clothed into the surf zone and then wet from head to toe roll around on the beach until every part of their body was covered with sand. The effect was known as a sugar cookie. You stayed in that uniform the rest of the day, cold, wet, and sandy. There were many a student who just couldn't accept the fact that all their effort was in vain. Those students didn't understand the purpose of the drill. You were never going to succeed. You were never going to have a perfect uniform. So when they did their uniform inspections every day, I'm sure they picked one person, no matter what they looked like. Well, and the thing is, I mean, just with so many different things, but, you know, your uniform included, I'm sure there's always, it's kind of like if I'm going to drive from here to, say, the grocery store, there's probably some traffic law I'm going to break. Like if a cop was following me, like that, I mean, nobody's perfect, you know, and like your uniform or your driving, you're never perfect. But so even if you were perfect, I'm sure they would find a way for you to not be perfect. And then they would make you go roll around and, you know, get wet and then roll around in the sand. And I mean, my takeaway from this is you have to accept the fact that like you're going to fail and like you can always improve.
Well, and to not put so much weight on passing or failing. You know,
absolutely.
It's all about getting the job done. The overall John. This is more bigger picture to me. Absolutely. This is more making you understand the bigger picture.
I totally agree, and I think it also has to do with failure too.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
yeah, and beating the fact that failure is an option into your system.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you know, obviously, if we're putting this into the context of Navy SEALs, there's certain failures that are they're gonna end in death, But overall, I mean, Navy SEAL training, Navy SEAL operations, life in general, business, anything you want to do, I mean, you're going to fail. Be prepared to fail, and be prepared to fail often. I was listening to a Denzel Washington speech. Maybe we'll do an episode on that. And he talks about that, you know, be prepared to fail and be prepared to fail often. And then he takes it another step further and he says, you're going to fall. So when you fall forward. And I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah.
So the number 5. If you want to change the world, don't be afraid of the circuses. Every day during the training, you were challenged with multiple physical events, long runs, long swims, obstacle courses, hours of calisthenics, something designed to test your mettle. Every event has standards, times you had to meet. If you failed to meet those standards, your name was posted on a list. And at the end of the day, those on the list were invited to a circus. A circus was 2 hours of additional calisthenics designed to wear you down, to break your spirit, to force you to quit. Life is filled with circuses. You will fail. You will likely fail often. It will be painful. It will be discouraging. At times, it will test you to your very core. And I think this is just it just plays right off of
4 and 5 are very similar to me.
Yeah, exactly.
They it should be kind of the same thing. It's like, you know what? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the sugar cookie one is more of the drill sergeant's manipulation of the situation, whereas 5 is more merit based. Where you can fall behind on a run, you can, not necessarily make the time for something, or you fail a task. So that's more based on the person themselves. But
absolutely,
it's another extension of the same thing. You know what? Well, whether or not you're in charge of the failure, or whether or not you can even have any sort of control over the situation, there's going to be failure, and you're going to have to pay for it.
Well, and like you said, I think that's a great point. Number 5 about the circuses, that is very much a failure of an objective measure. You have to make it in a certain time. So like if you fail, you fail. I think 4 is a little bit more kind of failures in life are going to happen with circumstances you can't control. And I think that, you have to get over that, because that's going to happen all the time. I mean, you could have,
4's more of a mental, completely mental thing.
But I mean, it's like, I could go into a meeting with the absolute best sales pitch ever, and there's still a chance like that might not work.
Well, if your client had a bad day, client didn't get any sleep, or your client's getting a divorce, that has nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I just failed, and it's like you have to get over it.
Exactly.
Because
you move on.
Thought your uniform was perfect, but it wasn't. So now you look like a sugar cookie. Like you can't let that get to you.
Well,
and you got to move on.
It makes you think twice about what you think perfection is too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everything we've done with this podcast and everything has a lot to do with me coming to this conclusion. But I mean, I honestly think that my version of success is just to never give up and keep trying, keep moving
for sure.
forward.
No, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah,
is success is not that hard to attain. It just takes persistence.
Absolutely.
In the simplest form of the definition. So
yeah, absolutely.
Pour yourself another drink.
I sure did. Yeah.
What are you drinking?
Alto's tequila.
Nice.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking Weller Special Reserve.
Oh yeah. Weller. Isn't that Weller Special Reserve is one that's supposed to be a lot like Pappy Van Winkle, right?
Well, the whole Weller line, it's the same weeded bourbon, and it's basically the same mash bill.
It's Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, Sazerac, which owns Buffalo Trace and all that stuff.
All right, number 6. If you want to change the world, sometimes you have to slide down the obstacle head first.
Yeah, this is all about perspective.
Right. Perspective, and I think a little bit of
dumb cowboy.
Kind of, yeah. Just John Wayne. Just dive
do
in.
It.
Just fucking do it.
Quit being which is what I thought the original thing was, but quit being a sugar cookie. Completely different definition of that term.
If you listened to the last the last 4 episodes, our Sun Tzu episodes, I think definitely in like the part 3 and part 4, there was a lot of things about committing to something, and once. Do your planning, make sure everything is, make sure that you are in the best position possible to succeed. But once you decide to take that step, just fucking take it.
Yeah. Just jump out of the plane.
Just do it. Because, and Shannon said something that I was listening to just re-listening to an episode the other day. And Shannon said something that it was powerful. She said, there's, everything we think about, where a lot of it comes from fear. Like, you're thinking about something and you're scared of failing at whatever this thing is. But like at the end of your life or the end of the day or the end of whatever, like, does that really even matter? Like, is that failure of doing whatever you're doing like so bad? Probably not.
No.
So just do it, because it's like JB says, if you can't hit a home run if you don't swing at the ball.
Well, and you want to get really like cosmic on this. Like we are,
sure.
Our entire human existence is such a minor blip on the timeline of existence itself. So there's something that really like kind of puts things in perspective. It doesn't flipping matter.
It doesn't matter. And I don't mean to be an asshole, but most of us are going to live our lives and do our things and die. And then what are we going to, we're going to be remembered by like the small circle of people that knew us, mostly our family, let's be honest. And like for me, like JB and likewise, but here's the thing though. And I'm not saying like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, you know, the people that have changed history and the people that we study and the people that we know in history are people who took big risks. And a lot of times they're people who failed miserably countless times. You know, we've talked about all these examples like Michael Jordan, Colonel Sanders, Thomas Edison. We won't even go into how much of an asshole Thomas Edison was, but regardless, I heard someone talk about the other, like Thomas Edison had like 1,000 failed inventions, and then he invented the light bulb. I'm like, yeah, he probably stole that from Tesla, but whatever, doesn't matter. So
yeah, that was a quote from what's it called, National Treasure.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah,
When asked about inventing the light bulb, he said, I invented 1,000 ways not to invent the light bulb.
But I mean, asshole or not, he could have, and whether he invented all these things or he stole them from other people, it doesn't matter. If he really, let's assume that that's true, he could have stopped at 50. I mean, how many times do you have to fail to feel like you're a failure? I mean, 1,000's a lot. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's absolutely
a shit ton.
But that's takes drive.
But that's what it takes to succeed. And like, go look up that Michael Jordan thing, with how many game-winning shots he's missed, how many times he's let everyone down. But, he's still regarded as one of the greatest to ever play the game. I mean, pick, what was it? Who's a big, there was, back to this, we need to do an episode on this Denzel Washington speech because it's legit. But he was talking about some baseball player. Reggie Jackson? No.
Sure.
I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. I'll put it in the show notes. We'll find the right answer and I'll put it in the show notes. But, he named some baseball player who's hit a lot of home runs. And he wasn't one of the ones that I would think of, but whatever. And he said, so-and-so struck out. Not struck out, but whatever. Was struck out?
Didn't hit homers?
Didn't hit homers.
Fouled out.
Yeah, maybe not fouled out, but like got caught. Whatever. He did that.
You can tell we're sports ball fans.
We're so sports ball fans. We're basketball fans. Anyways, he named the number of times that homeboy got didn't hit a home run and got out on his hit, and it was like, but nobody remembers him from that. Everybody remembers him for how many home runs he hit, and like that's cool. But guess what? All those guys who were scared to swing and didn't swing because they were afraid of striking out, who are they? Who knows? Because we don't remember them. Like nobody
exactly.
knows
Or who caught those pop flies, or who threw the ball to get him out. Nobody knows.
Absolutely. So number 7 is, I think, my personal favorite. If you want to change the world, don't back down from the sharks. There are a lot of sharks in the world. If you hope to complete the swim, you will have to deal with them. So in this one, his example is, I guess there's one day during SEAL training where they take them out to some islands off of San Diego, and they have to do this night swim. And the way that he puts it, the instructors are overjoyed explaining to you all the different types of sharks that are out there that might eat you, and that to their knowledge, from what they can remember, no Navy SEAL has ever been eaten by a shark. However, if a shark starts to circle your position, you can't be afraid, you can't back down, and you have to stand your ground, because obviously if you start, screaming and yelling and splashing around,
you end up looking like a seal
fish,
and you end up looking delicious.
You end up getting killed. And then he goes on to say, if a shark does decide to come in for a midnight snack, you punch the thing in the mouth and then it'll swim away. And from all accounts of my knowledge, that's pretty much true.
Well,
now the problem,
you have watched a lot of years of Shark Week.
I do have a lot of years of Shark Week. I mean, I'm pretty much like a sharkologist, and that's not a real thing, but whatever. But then obviously he's extrapolating that into in the world, in your life, that you're going to be dealing with sharks a lot, and you have to stand your ground, and you have to show them that you're not afraid, and hopefully they'll leave you alone. But occasionally one will try to come in for a bite, and you have to punch them in the nose. I am not saying you should go punch your boss in the nose, first of all, but figuratively, exactly, figuratively. You do have to stand up to these people, because there's going to be people who are going to try and swindle you or strong arm you or whatever. I mean, so many different types of sharks, but you have to stand your ground. You have to be confident, and you can't back down from the sharks. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I think it's really strong.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So number 8, if you want to change the world, you must be your very best in the darkest moment. At the darkest moment of the mission is the time when you must be calm, composed, when all your tactical skills, your physical power, and all your inner strength must be brought to bear.
I feel like this is one of the most literal
I absolutely agree.
Points in this speech.
But it's also so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that, I mean, that's character. I don't know. To me, it comes down to character. It's character.
Absolutely.
It totally comes down to character. And, it's kind of like, I don't know. I've had random thoughts, like if a post-apocalyptic situation were to happen, who's going to be a little bitch and who's going to rise to the occasion?
Well, and I would think in Bud's training, which is the SEAL training, I feel like this would be the single most attribute that your superiors would be looking for.
Right.
To me, this is kind of the breaking point, because they know when you're at your darkest. They have the exercises all planned out. It's like hazing in fraternity. It's like it's a program. Yeah. They know exactly when the SEAL trainees are going to be at their most strained.
Right.
So they can see they see this coming. They're like, okay, well, this is where it's going to be. This whoever pops through this is going to be the guy.
I don't know the numbers.
The litmus test.
I don't know the numbers, but I want to say in the examples I can remember, and I'm totally pulling this out of my ass, but I want to say like 150-ish people would start Bud's training and like 30 people finish.
Yeah.
And I think I think Navy SEALs in general are good at operating in dark moments, like better than I am for sure. But I think the ones who are truly good, I mean, those are the ones who stand out. Those are your Marcus Luttrells and your Chris Kyles and your Jockos and your Leifs. And, those are the guys who, because I think it's like, I mean, you and I both said it comes down to character, but the ones who, I mean, those guys have seen shit that we'll never see.
Yeah.
And not only did they handle it like a badass, but they learned from it, and that's awesome. But even in life, I mean, and your darkest moment is obviously not going to be like Marcus Luttrell's darkest moment, on a hillside taking a bunch of enemy fire, watching every single one of your best friends die, and then being the only person to survive. But I mean, that doesn't belittle your struggles on a daily basis.
In a funny way. That I don't know. I don't know anything really about Marcus Luttrell, but there's probably some points where that may not be his darkest moment either. The darkest moment may have been coming back to camp, and proceeding on from that,
Well, I mean, if you've watched any interviews with him or anything, I mean, there's definitely an element of survivor's guilt there. Mm-hmm. And my coolest thing is, so dude, he came back. The book Lone Survivor was written. I think he wrote it, and then I'm sure he had help writing it. And then they made it into a movie with Mark Wahlberg and Taylor Kitsch and that kid from that one Disney show. And anyways, awesome movie. If you haven't watched it, you should probably watch it. But he could have framed the story in any way that he wanted, because there was nobody to tell, to say that he was wrong. So he could have definitely been the hero in that story. But if you watch the movie or read the book, he's not the hero in the story. The hero is the leader of their little squad. I don't know what I cannot remember his name or his position, but he was played by Taylor Kitsch in the movie. And I mean, that guy was the fucking hero because he's the one who went up to the ridge and used the radio, which he knew was going to get him killed. But that's how at least Marcus survived. But you're probably right. Yeah, coming back from that. I mean, I'm sure surviving it was horrible, but yeah, spending the time in
that's that long agonizing journey. That's the part where it's the darkest because again, don't get me wrong. I can't say anything about it that it may be. I may be completely wrong. In my mind, analyzing the story, that would be the hardest part because you have so much adrenaline going on the time that it all happens. You're seeing it, yes, you're reacting, but when you come back, like that entire flood of emotion comes back, and then you have to look forward without them.
Well, and
that to me would be the hardest part.
Well, and I think as humans, like survivor's guilt exists all the time with all sorts of different people, because when someone dies in a way that, when someone gives their life to fucking save yours, whether it's direct or indirect, I mean, that sometimes it's hard to live with because, but then again, I mean, sometimes it probably gives you more purpose. I don't know. I've never been in that situation, but
especially in a community of people who are so willing to do that for each other.
And that's exactly where I was going with this. Yeah. Navy SEALs to a whole nother degree. I mean, dying on a mission to serve your country as a Navy SEAL. And I'm not a Navy SEAL, so I don't know. I mean, if your guys are Navy SEALs, send me an email, let me know. Because if I'm off base, like, I will absolutely
let us know,
give the
please.
floor to you.
This is just us analyzing the situation.
My thoughts is that a Navy SEAL, I think dying for your country as a Navy SEAL is probably one of the biggest like badges of honor that they can have. I mean, not that every Navy SEAL wants to go die, but I think that dying on a mission is probably something that, it's certainly not a bad thing, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, there's honor in it. There's absolutely honor in it.
When your buddy and your leader, does that for you and he gives up his life so that you can have a chance to survive, and then you're out there and like everyone else died and you didn't, like yeah, dude, I don't know. That's crazy. I'm sure he had a ton of dark moments after that.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine.
But let's kind of bring this back a little bit. I think that's obviously a huge example of that. But we have these examples every day, every week, every whatever. And your example might be super, super small, but if there's a dark moment in your day, I mean, that every dark moment we have, no matter how big and small, is it truly a test of character. And I think that goes right back to what we've said a million times, that, success doesn't build character, failure does. And happy times, it's easy to be a good friend, a good husband, a good wife, a good whatever, a good employee when things are going well. But
happy times are the reward.
Right. But how you react and how you act and how you present yourself and how you do things when the chips are down, I mean, that's the true test of character. So we'll go on to number 9. I like number 9. If you want to change the world, start singing when you're up to your neck in mud.
See, I feel like I would relate to this one the most. I can totally see myself, and this is one of my, not to toot my own horn, I just feel like, relating to any of these, when the shit hits the fan, when we're having a rough work day, whatever, I feel like I like to be the guy that motivates and inspires in those shitty situations. I just love that. I don't know if, I've needed the inspiration on my side, but 75, 80% of the time I'm that guy that, hey, everybody's like, oh my God, this is the worst. And I'm just like, dude, it could be worse. So suck it up. Let's fuck around and have some fun.
Fucking have fun with it, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. And you know what? It's funny because we didn't mean to do this, but earlier you and I were talking about parenting. I mean, I was learning from you pretty much. And you were saying how it has to be fun. And this just made me think of that. How no matter what you're doing, you might as well have fun with it. And I mean, this example comes from there's the Tijuana Mudflats, which is like a swampy, muddy slough.
If any of you listening have ever been to Tijuana, you know that term right there makes you cringe.
Yes. And if you've ever been even in San Diego, when you get close to Tijuana, you can smell it. And most of that is probably those sloughs. So they're in this disgusting, dirty, disease-ridden just mud. And they're basically buried up to their necks in mud. And they just have to sit there. So he was saying one night, you know, they were sitting there and they were like, oh, if 5 people quit, you guys can all go home. Not home, but like back to your camps or whatever. And he's like, you could see some people thinking about quitting. And they were just, you know, they're just taunting them to quit. And then one guy stood up and started singing. And then the instructors were yelling at them, stop singing, stop singing. But then another guy joined in, and then they all were singing. And the instructors lost all power because the trainees were having fun. And they were singing.
What are you going to do? I mean,
they were singing,
what are you going to do?
and they were probably
push our heads in the mud?
Right. It's like, it's that whole thing like, dude, you can't fire all of us, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is so huge because at the end of the day, like, you got to have fun. And I mean, you know, I struggle with this with my employees. Like, I want to motivate them. I want them to do well, like in business. But if it's not fun, at least sometimes on some level, in some way, like what's the fucking point?
Well, and I think in a more kind of dire circumstance, it's more of hope too. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be the guy singing. It could be, you know, you walk into a situation where a friend of yours or somebody has lost somebody, and you tell them a joke. You know, you lift their spirits in some way, shape, or form. You give them just that little tiny sliver of hope, that little piece of sun through the clouds.
Well, and I think part of it has to do with control too.
Yeah,
because you're sitting there in this cold, horrible, disgusting mud. But once you start singing, you take back a little bit of that control that you don't have. And so I think having fun and joking, and first there's a ton of, you know, there's a ton of evidence that shows obviously that, you know, smiling and laughing and all this stuff, you know, is good for you and especially for the situations. But I think that you take back a little bit of control that you had lost by doing something like singing or making a joke or whatever, because it's different. And also, keep in mind in this particular situation, these people, like, they want you to suffer. So it's almost like a big F you to just start singing. Like, fuck it. Like,
well, for sure. And so many
like,
people live in those soggy mud bogs in their mind. You know, people entrap themselves in those, you know, prisons of, you know, I'm up to my neck in mud and I can't do anything. If you can let that little bit of song come through, or that little bit of hope come through, you can show yourself that you're not in that. You know, you can bring yourself back to reality and be like, holy crap, I'm not up to my neck in anything. You know,
that
should be a coping mechanism for so many people, is that, like, you know what, listen to a song that you like, you know, go, you know, we talk about all the times with reclamations and stuff like that, you know, go open the door for somebody, just do something that gives somebody hope, and it'll give yourself hope, and you'll be like, holy crap, snap out of it. You know,
you gotta have, exactly. And I think he draws that point too. You have to have hope, because a little bit of hope can go a long way, and you need to give yourself hope. And if you're strong enough to do that, you can give everyone else hope too, because there were people in that, you know, in his example, there was people that were about to quit. And then, you know, one dude starts singing just because fucking who knows why. Like, he was just like, fuck it. Like, what else am I going to do right now? I'm just going to start singing.
I feel like he's the dude in Rudy that just starts going, Rudy.
Wasn't that Vince Vaughn?
No, it was one of the other, like, meathead lineman dudes.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's just this one goes in so many different directions, but ultimately take a little bit of control, have a little bit of fun, and have a little hope for yourself, and give hope to other people if you have the strength to do so, because they can't always do it for themselves.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So the last one, and this one's really easy. If you want to change the world, don't ever ring the bell.
So that's the thing in SEAL training, is that's how you quit.
They have a bell.
You walk up, you have this big brass bell, and you walk up and you ding, 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 and then you're done. You
ring
go
it.
home.
Yeah. So in SEAL training, there's a brass bell that hangs in the center of the compound for all the students to see. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock, Ring the bell and you no longer have to do freezing cold swims. Ring the bell and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. Just ring the bell. If you want to change the world, don't ever, ever ring the bell. And this one's real simple. Just don't fucking quit, ever.
Yeah.
Sometimes
sometimes it's the easiest thing to do.
Right. But don't do it. And that's that whole, right back to Sun Tzu. Like, if you have decided to do this battle, to go into this fight, if you've done your planning and all of your pregame stuff, and you've decided that this is a fight that I can win, sometimes it's going to get tough, but you have to get through it.
Well, no matter how prepared you are for a certain situation, there's always unforeseen circumstances. Everything,
Absolutely.
Nothing's going to go your way all the time, for sure, and that's obviously goes without saying. And it'll get to the point where you are like, "Wow, this is so much worse than I ever thought it was going to be." That's at the point where you're just starting that whole, reasoning thing in your head where you're like, wow, I didn't realize this was going to be this hard, and that's a different threshold for everybody,
Absolutely. But I think we all have something in common in that our brains are weak.
They are, absolutely.
I mean, we're wired that way because you're wired to
Survive.
stop doing something. You're wired to survive, but in that you're wired to stop to not do harm to yourself. So when something is either physically or it's objectively or subjectively painful, your body has this reaction to quit. I mean, that's where the whole Navy SEAL 40% rule comes into play. When you think that you're done, or you think that you have nothing left, their theory is that you still have 40% left in the tank, and being able to tap into that, that's the magic of the guys who make it through.
Yeah, and that's just that mental fortitude, man. It's that kind of that X factor that you almost have to be a little naive to reality at that point. You have to stop thinking so much about it and just do it.
Well, I think it goes back to something you and I have talked about a million times, is that whole we've talked about like dogs, for example. They don't second guess themselves. And babies don't second guess themselves. Like, if a baby wants to do something, it just does it. Like, if a dog, like if Paige wants something that rolled under the couch, like she'll spend 3 hours trying to. Now, she can't move the couch, so she's never going to get the thing under the couch until I get it for her. But she doesn't quit, because that's not like second guessing herself. Like, oh, well, I guess it's too hard, I'm not going to do it. Like, that doesn't exist in their brain.
Yeah, instinct versus reasoning kind of thing.
Right. We've drawn this conclusion. Like, one of the things that makes David Goggins so motivational and such a fucking beast is that he seems to be wired kind of that same way. If he has a goal or he has a thought, like, failure is not a fucking option. Every failure is just another way that didn't work, and then he moves on to the next one. But he was like, I'm going to be in the Marines. I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. I'm going to be the best long distance runner in the world. And he didn't necessarily know the route to get to each of these goals, but he didn't care, because once, like, he got that idea in his mind, and
that almost did him a service, is not knowing the route.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, and that's why I love your whole kind of. There is a naivete, however you say that.
Yeah,
there is a naivete to the whole thing that I think it's almost like an ignorance is bliss kind of a thing,
For sure.
If you have,
not like you're ignorant. It's just an ignorance.
It's more like a willful
unknowingness,
not caring about anything except for how to succeed at the goal. Mm-hmm. Because, Goggins is probably, and if he put it on paper, like, he's probably failed thousands of times, but it didn't matter, and that's what sets people like Goggins apart from other people. Like, he had a hard ass road for everything he did, but he never quit. He never quit. And that's how he became a Marine, and that's how he he had to lose 90 pounds in 90 days or something like that to become a Marine.
It's a lot of it's stubbornness too.
Well, that's part of it too. And I mean, and there's a
Like,
hazy
you
line.
tell me I can't do this? Fuck you.
No, for sure. And there's a hazy line between stubbornness and persistence, and I mean, we've talked at length, including an entire episode dedicated to persistence and how persistence is the key, like, because understanding and accepting that failure is a part of life, you have to be persistent, and stubbornness can definitely help with that. Now, there's obviously, I'm sure we could find examples where stubbornness is stupid, but like if you're entering into a losing battle and you're too stubborn to cut
if
bait
stubbornness
and run,
doesn't end up ultimately helping you, it's not good.
right? But stubbornness can absolutely have positive effects on persistence.
For sure,
in certain aspects. So yeah, I mean, there's something to that for sure. So yeah, so those are the 10 lessons that Admiral McRaven learned from his Navy SEALs basic training.
Those are some very helpful, insightful, useful lessons I take from that. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, me too, man. I mean, and it's funny, like, I've heard, like, get your head right, make your bed right. But just, I mean, it's just
all
it's like,
iterations of the same thing, honestly.
exactly. And but what I love about it is it kind of boils down to, similar to like the Sun Tzu book. It's very, these are 10 very simple lessons.
Absolutely.
And, but extrapolated out, there's these 10 simple lessons can make 1,000 different complex,
Well, a seed is a
approaches to
simple
things.
thing, but it grows into a tree.
Hey, a cell is a simple thing, and it grows into a baby. And
Exactly.
Then it
So,
becomes your screaming 2-year-old who
It's
has
all in
meltdowns.
how long you want to watch its progress, or in which context you're willing to view the idea. I mean, it's all
Absolutely.
it's all context.
Yeah, it's all context. But I mean, at the end of the day, do the little things. Start small. Do the little things. Give your brain that sense of accomplishment that it needs. Don't back down from assholes. Don't be afraid to look like a fucking idiot. Because guess what? We all do. We all will. And it is what it is. And at the end of the day, don't give up. Ever.
Yeah, have some friends around.
Yep.
Don't judge people. I mean, these are basic human truths, and it's just it's so simple. It's just keeping it and doing it is the difficult part. Which is, I mean, honestly, you look at SEAL training. Overall, the idea of it, you do all this hard shit, you become a Navy SEAL. It's not simple, but it's very physical and mental. We're gonna cut all this stuff out because I think this is stupid what I'm saying, but
no, it's I don't think so. I think you're right on track. I mean, it is physical. It's very physical. I mean, you and I would for sure fail Navy SEAL training. Right now.
I wouldn't even have started SEAL training.
But here's the thing. I think that everybody that enters Navy SEAL training is physically capable of making it through.
Oh, for sure.
I think what Navy SEAL training truly does is it gets out, it weeds out the people that are weak mentally.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I mean,
I don't want people who are weak mentally, taking on the tasks.
Yeah, but I'm also saying, there's a ton of people who fail Navy SEAL training every year or who ring the bell. I'm not saying that makes you a bad person at all. Like 99.9% of the human race or, Americans wouldn't make it through Navy SEAL training, either physically or mentally or both. But yeah, that's what sets them apart. And there's so many reasons for it. But ultimately, I think that we can all take some of these lessons and apply them to our actual lives. And we're not going to have to do the stuff that, Navy SEALs have to do, obviously. But I think that these lessons are just so commonsensical.
But in some cases, people see their problems as that difficult. And I'm not saying they're not. It doesn't matter. It's all relative. If you see, getting out of bed in the morning as difficult as a 5-mile swim in the middle of the night and you think there's sharks around you, it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
It's in your mind, and you can take these things and apply them. It's all about
getting out of bed in the morning. Is that hard? Then I would go right back to whatever lesson, whichever number the lesson, get some help is. And I don't even necessarily mean professional help. I mean, maybe I'm just having a rough week.
That was a poor example on my part, but
it's good. Like, I mean, no, not at all, dude, because that is, for some people, getting out of bed or stepping outside of your front door is as hard as swimming with sharks for other people.
For sure.
And it doesn't discount or belittle your struggles at all. And I mean, this goes right back to our the struggle is real episode. We all have struggles, and some of them are on paper more legitimate than others. But at the end of the day, like, whatever your struggle is, it doesn't matter. It's real. So, use whatever tools and resources you need to deal with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, just because of your example, I'm just going to go back to like the whole help thing. And I mean, it could be professional help. It could be friend help. It could be colleague help, whatever it is, like, talk to somebody. But, I mean, even the strongest Navy SEAL, like Jocko, he's one of the biggest badasses that's ever fucking walked the earth. Let's be honest. But like, he still needs Echo to like produce the podcast, right? Like, we all need help in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you play to your strengths.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And nobody's strong in everything.
No, not at all. Not at all. So yeah, dude, that's pretty much
nice. That was I like this. I like this.
I like it too. I like this. I like the speech. I like this direction. I want to start doing more of this. So yeah, dude. Yeah. We miss you, Steve. But happy birthday. And JB, it's good. I like talking to you, buddy.
I like talking to you too, fan. I it sucks that I have been away for a few weeks.
Dude, you have a good excuse.
You manning the. I appreciate you being the coxswain.
I am the coxswain. Yes,
and that's Bruce Wayne's cousin, Coxswain.
Yes, Coxswain. Wayne's Scotting. Fucking, let's bring it right back. Yeah. Everything connects to everything else.
It does.
That's how this shit works.
It's like the Avatar, and what do they call it? The little thing.
I didn't see that movie because I saw it the first time they made it, and it was called Fern Gully.
Oh, yeah, you're right, but still, it doesn't matter the content. It matters the James Cameron amazing fucking visual effects.
Yes,
that's the whole reason for that Fern Gully.
Absolutely,
that's funny.
So, yeah. So,
JB,
Pocahontas,
poke my haunches. What?
JB, final thoughts.
Well, I think that my final thoughts for this episode are, we speak so much about inspiration and the fact that so many of our episodes revolve around the same things, and we always say coming back to things, and that's not a bad thing. In the fact that these are simple ideals that can take a lot of mental fortitude and action to get through. So if there's one way to look at it, there's 100 ways to look at those things. So we're just trying to circle around and give you the most broad spectrum of ideals to look at these simple facts and inspirational ideals for you. So I mean,
absolutely,
that's kind of my because I struggle with that too. It's like, we keep talking about the same thing. And it's like, you know what? There's nothing else to talk about. This is what we're talking about. These are just different viewpoints on the same thing, and not everybody sees everything in the same viewpoint. So, in my final thought today is that I'm realizing this myself, and that you know what, it's we're just gonna try and bring it. We're gonna beat it to death, but if it helps you out, it helps you. If it doesn't, then go listen to someone else, and we hope you you find it somewhere else, because for sure the ultimate goal is you finding success.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think our goal here, our newest goal, we have lots of goals. Our goals are well, like JB said, for you to be successful. And if we can help with that, that's awesome. But our kind of sub goal in this episode and lots of episodes is to take speeches and books and programs and motivational speakers and kind of break them down and tell you what we think of them, positive, negative, whatever. But so that to kind of give you the cliff notes on, if you're looking for motivation, hopefully we can kind of help point you in the right direction. And I mean, you just kind of made me think. I hate to keep going back to like our Sun Tzu episodes, but I think that it goes right back to his whole, there's only two types of warfare, direct and indirect. And but out of those two types of warfare, come immeasurable, countless different strategies. And, there's only five notes, and there's only 5 colors, and there's only whatever, but out of those come countless, when you start mixing those into an algorithm, out of those come countless different ways to approach something, or countless different colors that you can see with your eyes, or countless different tastes, or countless different sounds. And I think when you break it down, there is a simplicity to everything. And I think that we've kind of accidentally realized this with motivation and with life. But I think back to number 1, if you want to change the world, make your bed, comes right back to JB's example earlier of the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And if nothing else, like, we're just here to help you find a way through hundreds of hours or whatever, dozens of hours of episodes to take that step. And, that's what we're trying to do here.
Well, and that giant sequoia tree came from one seed.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Andre the Giant came from a single cell.
Exactly.
And that's it, guys. So thank you for listening. I hope this was inspirational, motivational, educational, and
masticational.
Mastication. Are you chewing something?
I'm chewing on all of these ideas.
Right. Yeah. So thank you, guys. The gentleman's name is William H. McRaven. Admiral,
go check it out. Go watch
United States Navy.
Watch the YouTube video.
It's 19 something minutes. I may or may not. I'll probably put the audio of it onto the end of this episode. So listen after the closeout song if you want to hear it. It's pretty awesome. He is definitely a boss and inspirational as hell. And I mean, he's we read his bio earlier. Like, dude he's a badass.
He's accomplished, to say the least.
He's accomplished. He's a badass. He could speak these lessons in a lot of different ways, but I love the way he does it. I mean, he's badass. He's powerful. His strength of character is, I mean, you can hear it in his voice, but at the same time, he's humble. And I mean, those are the kind of people we love on here. So that is it. You guys do your thing. Have a great day, great week. And
be good,
JB. Be good. And we'll talk to you later.
Peace.
So what I believe you were trying to say is thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you, President Powers, Provost Fenves, deans, members of the faculty, family and friends, and most importantly, the class of 2014. It is indeed an honor for me to be here tonight. It's been almost 37 years to the day that I graduated from UT. I remember a lot of things about that day. I remember I had a throbbing headache from a party the night before. I remember I had a serious girlfriend, who I later married. That's important to remember, by the way. And I remember I was getting commissioned in the Navy that day. But of all the things I remember, I don't have a clue who the commencement speaker was, and I certainly don't remember anything they said. So acknowledging that fact, if I can't make this commencement speech memorable, I will at least try to make it short. So the university's slogan is, what starts here changes the world. Well, I've got to admit, I kind of like it. What starts here changes the world. Tonight, there are almost 8,000 students, or there are more than 8,000 students graduated from UT. So that great paragon of analytical rigor, Ask.com, says that the average American will meet 10,000 people in their lifetime. 10,000 people, that's a lot of folks. But if every one of you changed the lives of just 10 people, and each one of those people changed the lives of another 10 people, and another 10, then in 5 generations, 125 years, the class of 2014 will have changed the lives of 800 million people. 800 million people. Think about it. Over twice the population of the United States. Go one more generation, and you can change the entire population of the world, 8 billion people. If you think it's hard to change the lives of 10 people, change their lives forever, you're wrong. I saw it happen every day in Iraq and Afghanistan. A young Army officer makes a decision to go left instead of right down a road in Baghdad, and the 10 soldiers with him are saved from a close-in ambush. In Kandahar province, Afghanistan, a non-commissioned officer from the female engagement team senses that something isn't right and directs the infantry platoon away from a 500-pound IED, saving the lives of a dozen soldiers. But if you think about it, not only were those soldiers saved by the decisions of one person, but their children were saved, and their children's children. Generations were saved by one decision, one person. But changing the world can happen anywhere, and anyone can do it. So what starts here can indeed change the world. But the question is, what will the world look like after you change it? Well, I'm confident that it will look much, much better. But if you'll humor this old sailor for just a moment, I have a few suggestions that may help you on your way to a better world. And while these lessons were learned during my time in the military, I can assure you that it matters not whether you ever served a day in uniform. It matters not your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all. I've been a Navy SEAL for 36 years, but it all began when I left UT for basic SEAL training in Coronado, California. Basic SEAL training is 6 months of long, torturous runs in the soft sand, midnight swims in the cold water off San Diego, obstacle courses, unending calisthenics, days without sleep, and always being cold, wet, and miserable. It is 6 months of being constantly harassed by professionally trained warriors who seek to find the weak of mind and body and eliminate them from ever becoming a Navy SEAL. But the training also seeks to find those students who can lead in an environment of constant stress, chaos, failure, and hardships. To me, basic SEAL training was a lifetime of challenges crammed into 6 months. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made. that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. During SEAL training, the students are all broken down into boat crews. Each crew is 7 students, 3 on each side of a small rubber boat, and 1 coxswain to help guide the dinghy. Every day, your boat crew forms up on the beach and is instructed to get through the surf zone and paddle several miles down the coast. In the winter, the surf off San Diego can get to be 8 to 10 feet high, and it is exceedingly difficult to paddle through the plunging surf unless everyone digs in. Every paddle must be synchronized to the stroke count of the coxswain. Everyone must exert equal effort, or the boat will turn against the wave and be unceremoniously dumped back on the beach. For the boat to make it to its destination, everyone must paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need some help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain to guide you. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had was made up of the little guys, the Munchkin crew, we called them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had 1 American Indian, 1 African American, 1 Polish American, 1 Greek American, 1 Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys from every corner of the nation and the world always had the last laugh, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers. Several times a week, the instructors would line up the class and do a uniform inspection. It was exceptionally thorough. Your hat had to be perfectly starched, your uniform immaculately pressed, your belt buckle shiny and void of any smudges. But it seemed that no matter how much effort you put into starching your hat or pressing your uniform or polishing your belt buckle, it just wasn't good enough. The instructors would find something wrong. For failing the uniform inspection, the student had to run, fully clothed, into the surf zone, then wet from head to toe, roll around on the beach until every part of your body was covered with sand. The effect was known as a sugar cookie. You stayed in the uniform the rest of the day, cold, wet, and sandy. There were many a student who just couldn't accept the fact that all their efforts were in vain, that no matter how hard they tried to get the uniform right, it went unappreciated. Those students didn't make it through training. Those students didn't understand the purpose of the drill. You were never going to succeed. You were never going to have a perfect uniform. The instructors weren't going to allow it. Sometimes, no matter how well you prepare or how well you perform, you still end up as a sugar cookie. It's just the way life is sometimes. If you want to change the world, get over being a sugar cookie and keep moving forward. Every day during training, you were challenged with multiple physical events, long runs, long swims, obstacle courses, hours of calisthenics, something designed to test your mettle. Every event had standards, times you had to meet. If you failed to meet those times, those standards, your name was posted on a list, and at the end of the day, those on the list were invited to a circus. A circus was 2 hours of additional calisthenics, designed to wear you down, to break your spirit, to force you to quit. No one wanted a circus. A circus meant that for that day, you didn't measure up. A circus meant more fatigue, and more fatigue meant that the following day would be more difficult, and more circuses were likely. But at some time during SEAL training, everyone made the circus list. But an interesting thing happened to those who were constantly on the list. Over time, those students who did 2 hours of extra calisthenics got stronger and stronger. The pain of the circuses built inner strength and physical resiliency. Life is filled with circuses. You will fail. You will likely fail often. It will be painful. It will be discouraging. At times, it will test you to your very core. But if you want to change the world, don't be afraid of the circuses. At least twice a week, the trainees were required to run the obstacle course. The obstacle course contained 25 obstacles, including a 10-foot wall, a 30-foot cargo net, a barbed wire crawl, to name a few. But the most challenging obstacle was the slide for life. It had a 3-level, 30-foot tower at one end and a 1-level tower at the other. In between was a 200-foot-long rope. You had to climb the 3-tiered tower, and once at the top, you grabbed the rope, swung underneath the rope, and pulled yourself hand over hand until you got to the other end. The record for the obstacle course had stood for years when my class began in 1977. The record seemed unbeatable until one day a student decided to go down the slide for life head first. Instead of swinging his body underneath the rope and inching his way down, he bravely mounted the top of the rope and thrust himself forward. It was a dangerous move, seemingly foolish and fraught with risk. Failure could mean injury and being dropped from the course. Without hesitation, the student slid down the rope perilously fast. Instead of several minutes, it only took him half that time. And by the end of the course, he had broken the record. If you want to change the world, sometimes you have to slide down the obstacles head first. During the land warfare phase of training, the students are flown out to San Clemente Island, which lies off the coast of San Diego. The waters off San Clemente are a breeding ground for the great white sharks. To pass SEAL training, there are a series of long swims that must be completed. One is the night swim. Before the swim, the instructors joyfully brief the students on all the species of sharks that inhabit the waters off San Clemente. They assure you, however, that no student has ever been eaten by a shark, at least not that they can remember. But you are also taught that if a shark begins to circle your position, stand your ground. Do not swim away. Do not act afraid. And if the shark, hungry for a midnight snack, darts towards you, then summons up all your strength and punch him in the snout, and he will turn and swim away. There are a lot of sharks in the world. If you hope to complete the swim, you will have to deal with them. So if you want to change the world, don't back down from the sharks. As Navy SEALs, one of our jobs is to conduct underwater attacks against enemy shipping. We practice this technique extensively during training. The ship attack mission is where a pair of SEAL divers is dropped off outside an enemy harbor and then swims well over 2 miles underwater, using nothing but a depth gauge and a compass to get to the target. During the entire swim, even well below the surface, there is some light that comes through. It is comforting to know that there is open water above you. But as you approach the ship, which is tied to a pier, the light begins to fade. The steel structure of the ship blocks the moonlight. It blocks the surrounding street lamps. It blocks all ambient light. To be successful in your mission, you have to swim under the ship and find the keel, the center line, and the deepest part of the ship. This is your objective. But the keel is also the darkest part of the ship, where you cannot see your hand in front of your face, where the noise from the ship's machinery is deafening, and where it gets to be easily disoriented, and you can fail. Every SEAL knows that under the keel, at that darkest moment of the mission, is a time when you need to be calm, when you must be calm, when you must be composed, when all your tactical skills, your physical power, and your inner strength must be brought to bear. If you want to change the world, you must be your very best in the darkest moments. The 9th week of training is referred to as Hell Week. It is 6 days of no sleep, constant physical and mental harassment, and one special day at the Mudflats. The Mudflats are an area between San Diego and Tijuana where the water runs off and creates the Tijuana Sloughs, a swampy patch of terrain where the mud will engulf you. It is on Wednesday of Hell Week that you paddle down to the mud flats and spend the next 15 hours trying to survive this freezing cold, the howling wind, and the incessant pressure to quit from the instructors. As the sun began to set that Wednesday evening, my training class, having committed some egregious infraction of the rules, was ordered into the mud. The mud consumed each man till there was nothing visible but our heads. The instructors told us we could leave the mud if only 5 men would quit. Only 5 men, just 5 men, and we could get out of the oppressive cold. Looking around the mud flat, it was apparent that some students were about to give up. It was still over 8 hours till the sun came up. 8 more hours of bone-chilling cold. The chattering teeth and the shivering moans of the trainees were so loud, it was hard to hear anything. And then one voice began to echo through the night. One voice raised in song. The song was terribly out of tune, but sung with great enthusiasm. One voice became 2, and 2 became 3, and before long, everyone in the class was singing. The instructors threatened us with more time in the mud if we kept up the singing, but the singing persisted. And somehow the mud seemed a little warmer, and the wind a little tamer, and the dawn not so far away. If I have learned anything in my time traveling the world, it is the power of hope. The power of one person, a Washington, a Lincoln, King, Mandela, and even a young girl from Pakistan, Malala. One person can change the world by giving people hope. So if you want to change the world, start singing when you're up to your neck in mud. Finally, in SEAL training, there's a bell. A brass bell that hangs in the center of the compound for all the students to see. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to be in the freezing cold swims. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. All you have to do is ring the bell to get out. If you want to change the world, don't ever, ever ring the bell. To the class of 2014, you are moments away from graduating, moments away from beginning your journey through life, moments away from starting to change the world for the better. It will not be easy, but you are the class of 2014, the class that can affect the lives of 800 million people in the next century. Start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risks, step up when the times are the toughest, face down the bullies, lift up the downtrodden, and never, ever give up. If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better. Thank you very much. Hook 'em horns.